What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we're going to be comparing the new OPPO Find X8 Pro to the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, right off the bat, I just want to see what you guys think. Which phone took which picture here? I'll give you a second to decide. You can look closely at them. And actually, here's a second set of pictures if you want to give it one more guess. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. I thought the results were pretty surprising, to be honest, and I'll give you the answers in just a moment. But the S24 Ultra obviously has been one of the top smartphones for pictures and videos in 2024. The iPhone 16 Pro is, of course, Apple's latest camera-focused pro picture and video taker. This new OPPO Find X8 Pro, though surprisingly, has more camera capabilities than both the iPhone and the S24 Ultra, and it even has a bigger battery, faster charging speeds, and a super smooth user experience and solid performance that collectively make it a really competitive option if you're looking for a high-end smartphone that isn't a Samsung or an Apple. Now, OPPO was kind enough to send me this new Find X8 Pro and sponsored this video, but they didn't get any say in what I get to say about this phone and how it compares. But I will say that this new OPPO really surprised me with the pictures and videos it was able to take. Here are those pictures matched with their respective phones from a moment ago. And before we talk specs, I just want to say a couple of things. For one, I'm really surprised how dim and dark the iPhone pictures look this year. By comparison, the S24 looks super bright, maybe even a little overexposed, and the OPPO Find X8 Pro, to me, this looks like a really well-balanced picture. Now, I have a ton more picture samples that we'll go through here, but first, I want to just quickly touch on the camera specs and shooting capabilities of these three phones so you know what we're working with. And then we'll analyze a bunch more shots side by side. So I'll start with the OPPO Find X8 Pro since it's the newest phone. This guy has a quad lens camera setup with 4 totally different 50 megapixel lenses. There's a 50 megapixel f1.6 aperture main, a 50 megapixel periscope telephoto lens with 3 times optical zoom, another 50 megapixel periscope telephoto lens with 6 times optical zoom, and a 50 megapixel 120 degree ultra wide lens. The S24 Ultra has a 200 megapixel f1.7 aperture main lens, a 10 megapixel 3 times optical zoom telephoto lens, a 50 megapixel periscope lens of its own with 5 times optical zoom, and a 12 megapixel 120 degree ultra wide lens. The iPhone 16 Pro is kind of the odd one out here. It only has 3 lenses that consist of a 48 megapixel f1.8 aperture main, a standalone 12 megapixel periscope telephoto lens with 5 times optical zoom, and then a 48 megapixel ultra wide. Now, given those camera specs, it's probably pretty apparent that the iPhone is at a huge disadvantage when it comes to its zoom capabilities. All 3 phones have some optical zoom, but the iPhone's digital zoom tops out at just 25 times. The S24 Ultra, we all know, has a pretty crazy 100 times super zoom, but get this, the OPPO Find X8 Pro goes even further with 120 times digital zoom, which is also paired with their new AI telescope feature. Basically, AI telescope zoom will enhance the pictures after the fact to reduce noise, boost the sharpness, and try to give you as clear of an image as possible, even if you're zoomed all the way in on something. In practice, here's what each phone can do when it comes to their respective telephoto lenses, 3 times, 5 times, and 6 times on the OPPO, as well as some varying digital zoom distances. To me, each one of these phones does a nice job capturing a ton of detail, but again, the iPhone seems to take just such a dim, dull picture, while the S24 Ultra is maybe more inconsistent. Sometimes it's super bright, almost overexposed, to almost the point of where it looks like there's glare. The OPPO Find X8 Pro feels like a mix between the two with a nice balance of color and exposure. And obviously, when you go beyond the telephoto lenses and start to utilize that digital zoom, the iPhone here is going to quickly fall off. Even at the iPhone's max 25 times zoom, it's blurry, it's fuzzy, and you lose so much detail. Besides that, you just can't go any further with the iPhone, while the OPPO Find X8 Pro and the S24 Ultra can keep going to 50 times and 100 times, and the OPPO can go even further still, and both the Find X8 Pro and the S24 Ultra utilize some AI enhancements to help sharpen those crazy zoomed in pictures. We know this, especially when the S24 Ultra snaps a picture of the moon, for example, but I found that the Find X8 Pro oftentimes does an even better job sharpening that final image with its AI telescope zoom feature, and it doesn't look artificial or overdone. it just looks like a decent, albeit very zoomed in, and pretty sharp looking picture. In utilizing the telephoto lenses for some portrait pics, this is honestly where the iPhone is probably supposed to be the best overall, and I think you can make that argument to some extent. I mean, to me, the S24 Ultra really overprocesses some of these portrait shots, especially in low light. The OPPO Find X8 Pro here actually is probably the most accurate out of the three. I know the shot looks kind of dark and almost dramatic in a way, but while the iPhone and the S24 Ultra are brightening everything, especially the subject, me, the Find X8 Pro seems to just be keeping as natural and accurate of an image as possible. And for as dark as the image is, there's no real loss in detail. There's no noise or fuzziness anywhere. You just have such an extreme variation in the dynamic range, while the iPhone and the Samsung just want everything to be as bright as possible. When it comes to just regular point and shoot images, without opting for the telephoto lenses or anything else, there's a couple more things that stand out to me. And I think this is how most people are going to be taking most pictures most of the time with these phones anyway. But the iPhone, again, is just surprisingly dull with its regular old images this year. And I know Apple is maybe going for a realistic or true-to-life look, but compared to the other two, it just looks maybe not quite right. They're not as appealing to the average person who wants as bright and as bold of a looking shot as possible. Opposite to that, the S24 Ultra seems to mess around with different colors and different images, so much so that it's almost inconsistent at times. Like here, for example, the OPPO looks very bold and saturated, while the S24 Ultra is more muted. And then here, the S24 Ultra went way too far, making these flowers look yellow-green instead of white like they're supposed to. The other two phones got this picture right. And I think Samsung just relies so much on some real-time color enhancements that sometimes the phone goes overboard. Now, aside from the camera capabilities, there are a few other things I want to talk about that separate these three phones. If you find yourself in a situation where you need to take a lot of pictures very quickly, or maybe just want to capture a specific moment and sift through some of the images afterwards to find the best one, the Find X8 Pro has an incredibly fast shutter function where you can snap up to 7 shots per second. This is called lightning snap. The S24 Ultra comes close to that, but the iPhone isn't anywhere near that fast. And after you have your image, we know both Samsung and Apple now have a few AI image editing tools to help remove unwanted objects and whatnot. On the Find X8 Pro, OPPO has also introduced their own AI reflection removal tool, which I found to be really useful. If you're snapping a pic in front of a window, for example, you can automatically remove any reflections that show in the image with the press of a button. And the before and after here is really quite good. I can't tell you how many times a cool plain window picture was ruined by my face or an overhead light shining on the window, so this is really helpful. To power all those AI features, the OPPO Find X8 Pro packs the new MediaTek Dimensity 9400 processor inside, paired to either 12 or 16 gigs of RAM. It runs ColorOS 15 on top of Android 15. And I think comparing it to the S24 Ultra is most fair here since we're talking Android to Android. But I was really impressed by the speed and overall smoothness of OPPO's OS. I mean, on paper, the MediaTek Dimensity 9400 is outclocking the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. You can also get more RAM than the S24 Ultra if you want as well, 16 gigabytes. OPPO is promising 5 major Android updates with this phone, which isn't as much as Samsung's 7, sure, but I appreciate OPPO's interest in some long-term support. I think from a software and performance standpoint, the OPPO Find X8 Pro really has a lot to offer, and while it's easy to default to the S24 Ultra being that sort of top-tier Android device, spec for spec, the Find X8 Pro is putting up higher numbers. Also, and this is probably one of my favorite things about the OPPO, this phone has a big 5910 mAh battery. Obviously bigger than the iPhone at 3582 and even bigger than the S24 Ultra at an even 5000. On top of that, the Find X8 Pro can charge up to 80 watts via SuperVOOC flash charging and 50 watts via AirVOOC wireless charging. Again, faster than both the S24 Ultra and the iPhone. And if that wasn't enough, OPPO actually gives you a big fast charger in the box, which if you've been following my channel for a while, you know this is something I harp on time and time again. In my opinion, the new OPPO Find X8 Pro is a really competitive phone when stacked up against the main flagship devices we're already familiar with this year, and it even offers some features and things that those phones don't even have. I appreciate OPPO giving me the chance to check out this new Find X8 Pro and to put it up against the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro. Like I said a bunch of times before, it really surprised me in a lot of different ways, but what do you guys think about the new OPPO Find X8 Pro? Were these pictures better than you expected, especially against the Samsung and the iPhone? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.